Imagine this. You wake up in the morning without an alarm clock. The sun has already touched your window, spilling a soft golden light across your pillow. There's no immediate rush, no vibrating phone demanding that you check your messages before you've even opened your eyes fully. Instead, you stretch, breathe, and allow your mind to float gently into the day. For some people, this sounds like luxury. For others, it sounds like laziness. But for type B personalities, this is not an indulgence. It is a philosophy, a way of existing that resists the frantic tempo of modern life. We live in a culture that celebrates speed. Work faster, eat faster, reply faster, achieve faster. Success is measured not only by what you accomplish, but by how quickly you can move from one accomplishment to the next. We call this ambition, we call it efficiency, but sometimes what it really is, quietly hiding behind the polite words, is anxiety, a nervous hum that never stops buzzing. Type A personalities thrive on this hum. It pushes them forward like a motor. But what about the rest of us? What about those who hear that hum and feel suffocated instead of energized? This is where Type B steps in. Type B is not a clinical category so much as a cultural archetype. Type A is the competitive, driven, impatient archetype. Type B is the laid-back, reflective, and often more contented counterpart. The two types are not absolute boxes, but they illustrate different ways of negotiating time and meaning. Type A runs, Type B strolls, Type A calculates, Type B contemplates. Type A builds skyscrapers, Type B watches the sunset from a rooftop. And in a world that feels increasingly frantic, the quiet philosophy of Type B is beginning to look less like laziness and more like wisdom. Think about it. How many times have you achieved something, a promotion, a raise, a purchase, only to feel the satisfaction evaporate almost immediately? Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, the tendency for humans to return quickly to a baseline of happiness regardless of what positive changes occur. Type A runs furiously on this treadmill, believing that the next accomplishment will finally deliver lasting satisfaction. Type B, on the other hand, is more likely to step off the treadmill altogether, stretch their arms, and ask why we are running in circles in the first place. Here is where philosophy joins psychology. Laozi, the ancient Chinese sage, famously spoke of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. But it does not mean doing nothing. It means aligning yourself with the natural flow of things, acting in harmony rather than in resistance. A river does not rush to prove its speed, it simply flows, and yet it carves valleys and nourishes fields. Type B individuals embody something of this spirit. They resist the cult of constant urgency and instead place their trust in rhythm, patience, and timing. Aristotle, from another corner of the world, argued that happiness is found in moderation, what he called the golden mean. To live well is to balance extremes, courage between recklessness and cowardice, generosity between wastefulness and stinginess. In this light, Type B's refusal to sprint endlessly can be seen not as weakness, but as an Aristotelian balance, a refusal to be consumed by the extremes of ambition. The slow philosophy of Type B is not an escape from life, but a different interpretation of what it means to live fully. Let me tell you a small story. A corporate executive, very Type A, once visited a fisherman in a coastal village. The fisherman was sitting lazily by his boat, playing a flute. The executive asked, "Why aren't you out fishing?" The fisherman replied, "I caught enough this morning." The executive frowned. "But if you fish more, you can sell more. With the profit, you can buy another boat. With 2 boats, you can buy a fleet. You'll be rich, and then you can retire and spend your days relaxing and playing music." The fisherman smiled and said, "But I am already doing that." This story circulates in many cultures because it reveals a truth we often forget. The chase for more can end up being a chase back to where we started. Type A builds ladders. Type B notices the ground beneath their feet. Both are valid, but only one demands relentless exhaustion. In psychology, studies have shown that Type B personalities experience lower stress levels, fewer heart problems, and often report greater satisfaction in their interpersonal relationships. Type A individuals, while often high achievers, carry higher risks of burnout and stress-related illnesses. In this sense, Type B is not merely a lifestyle preference, but a health advantage. Slowing down is not only a psychological balm, but also a physiological one. Your heart literally thanks you for being less hurried. Yet we live in societies that often label Type B as underachieving. We equate busyness with value, as if the worth of a person could be calculated in how tightly packed their calendar is. A person who chooses to take a long walk after lunch instead of answering emails might be judged as not serious enough. But who decided that seriousness must always look like tension? That commitment must always wear the mask of exhaustion? Here's a humorous contrast. Imagine two neighbors. The first wakes up at 5 a.m., drinks 2 cups of black coffee, runs 5 kilometers, answers emails before breakfast, and posts a motivational quote online. The second wakes up at 9 a.m., makes tea, waters the plants, and hums while buttering toast. Who seems happier? Who seems more at peace? Our instinctive answer may already reveal why the Type B dream feels so alluring. Type B philosophy does not deny ambition, it simply reframes it. Instead of asking, "How much can I achieve before I collapse?" it asks, "How deeply can I experience before I leave?" It treats life not as a race course, but as a landscape to be walked slowly, with pauses to notice the flowers, the shifting clouds, the laughter of strangers. It tells us that slow is not the opposite of success, but the texture of meaning. Got it. Thanks for clarifying. From now on, I'll continue the script entirely in English, in a natural narrative style that flows like a sleep story but still delivers depth. I'll keep the ASMR, reflective tone, with psychology plus philosophy weaved in. If you walk into almost any bookstore, or more likely, scroll through an online marketplace, you'll notice an entire shelf, or rather, an entire industry, dedicated to the art of getting more done. Productivity hacks, bullet journals, 5 ways to crush your morning, 10 ways to double your output, how to win before breakfast. The modern gospel is clear. Speed equals virtue, busyness equals importance, and efficiency equals worth. This is the cult of speed. It tells us that a day is only meaningful if it has been conquered, measured, packaged into accomplishments. If you don't wake up at 5 a.m., run a 10 Kelvin, meditate, journal, and start a startup before noon, well, maybe you're just wasting oxygen. But let's pause. Have you ever noticed how many people sprint from one task to another yet feel strangely hollow at the end of the day? Their calendars are full, but their inner rooms are empty. They fall asleep with their brains still buzzing and wake up not refreshed, but already behind. Psychology has a term for this, the hedonic treadmill. The faster you run, the more it speeds up, so you never arrive. More tasks create more appetite for tasks. More rewards raise the threshold for rewards. It's the paradox of progress. The more we have, the less it satisfies. Now imagine a Type B person in this landscape. They look almost like a heretic. When everyone else is speed-walking through life, they are strolling. When others are building routines with military precision, they are wandering into the park to watch ducks. And here's the secret. Their heart rate is lower, their cortisol calmer, their smile not forced but actual. This isn't just lifestyle preference, it's physiological. Studies show that Type B individuals literally handle stress differently. Their bodies metabolize it more slowly. They recover quicker from setbacks. Their immune systems, in some studies, even show more resilience. In other words, they are not simply lazy. They are adaptive in a different register. But beyond psychology, there's a philosophy here. Laozi's Wu Wei comes alive again. Effortless action, the art of not pushing the river, but letting it flow. Or think of the Greek Stoics, who argued that you can't control outcomes, only your choices. The Type A world insists on conquering outcomes. The Type B philosophy whispers, perhaps the real conquest is not conquering at all. And there is humor in this. Picture two neighbors. One wakes up at dawn, slams a protein shake, checks emails, squeezes in a hit workout, and posts a motivational quote online about crushing it. The other wakes up late, yawns, waters the plants, makes a slow cup of tea, and spends half an hour staring at sunlight on the wall. At the end of the day, both are tired. One is tired from chasing, the other is tired from being alive. Which fatigue is heavier? Which one can be cured by sleep, and which one lingers like smoke? The cult of speed cannot answer that. It only tells you to buy another planner, download another app, or install a productivity coach into your bloodstream. But philosophy does answer. Aristotle called happiness activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. Notice he didn't say speed or conquest or optimization. He said activity aligned with purpose, balanced, moderate, like music played in the right key. Type B people, by accident or by design, have stumbled into this truth. They practice what we might call the quiet rebellion. They rebel not by fighting speed with more speed, but by refusing the premise altogether. If life is framed as a race, they simply say, "No thank you, I prefer the walk." There's a subversive joy in this. Think of Diogenes, the ancient philosopher who lived in a barrel and mocked Alexander the Great. When Alexander offered him anything he desired, Diogenes only replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." That is type B energy. Recognizing that the emperor's crown means little if you can't enjoy the warmth of a morning Sunday. But here's the tricky part. Type B living is not laziness, nor is it passivity. It is not collapsing on the couch with Netflix until the end of time. It is active slowness, a chosen pace. Like the Japanese concept of ma, the space between things. Silence in music that makes the notes sing. Gaps in architecture that let light in. Stillness in a conversation that allows meaning to surface. So let's be clear. Slowing down is not dropping out. It's dropping into the texture of time itself. When you choose to walk slowly through a forest instead of racing on a treadmill, you are not wasting time. You are rejoining it. When you savor one meal instead of multitasking 3 meetings over coffee, you are not being unproductive. You are producing a different kind of value. The value of presence. Now, psychologists will note that not everyone can become type B. Personality has its roots. If you are naturally wired for competition, you can't simply meditate yourself into a monk. But, and here is the gift you can borrow. Type B habits. You can practice deliberate slowdowns, even if your nature is restless. You can breathe like a B, even if you think like an A. And maybe that's where the future lies. Not in abandoning ambition, but in integrating rhythm. A world where people run when they must, but walk when they can. A world where being human is not defined by output graphs, but by the ability to pause, to laugh, to rest, to notice. Because at the end of the day, the cult of speed sells us a fantasy, that life is a ladder, and the faster we climb, the higher we'll get. But the ladder leans against no wall. The higher you go, the more you realize the view isn't different, only farther from the ground. The quiet rebellion of type B dreams is simply to step off the ladder and sit under a tree. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only way to actually see the sky. Picture this. You're sitting by a river. Not a dramatic, crashing river, the kind poets write about, but a slow, wandering one. The kind that carries leaves like small boats and makes you forget whether 5 minutes or an hour has passed. If you're a type A person, this scene is torture. You're checking your watch, thinking, what's the point? How many steps am I losing on my fitness tracker right now? But if you lean into the stillness, something strange happens. Time stops being a straight line and starts becoming a depth. This is what philosophers sometimes call deep time. It's not measured by seconds, but by experience. The ancient Greeks had 2 words for time, chronos and kairos. Chronos is clock time, the kind your calendar app bleats about. Kairos is the opportune moment, the time that ripens, the pause that makes meaning. Psychology has picked up this thread. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi Don't worry, you don't have to pronounce it in one breath. Studied something called flow states. That moment when you lose track of time, because you're absorbed. You look up, and 3 hours have vanished, but you feel alive instead of drained. What's interesting is that type A people chase flow like a trophy. They turn it into another productivity hack. But type B people, they slide into it almost accidentally. They enter flow not because they're hunting it, but because they're simply available. Here's a small joke the universe seems to play. The more you chase flow, the more it runs. The more you wander into it, the more it appears. It's like sleep. You can't force it. You can only prepare a pillow, dim the lights, and let it arrive when it wants. Let's go further back, into philosophy. The Taoist sages spoke of time as a river you cannot dam without consequences. The more you block, the more turbulence you create. In contrast, the slow philosophy is letting water find its path. The Stoics had a similar phrase, amor fati, love of fate. Instead of grinding your teeth at what the day delivers, you greet it with a kind of radical hospitality. Type B people live closer to this axis. They don't burn energy resisting every twist. They bend. And somehow, bending is what allows them not to break. There's also something psychological here about attention. Neuroscience shows that our brains toggle between two major networks. The task-positive network, which is focused, linear, goal-driven, and the default mode network, which is dreamy, associative, meandering. Type A culture glorifies the first and demonizes the second. But without the dreamy mode, we wouldn't have creativity, memory consolidation, even empathy. Type B rhythms leave more room for that wandering network to stretch its legs. Think of Einstein daydreaming in a patent office, imagining himself riding on a beam of light. Think of Virginia Woolf pacing her garden, shaping sentences like waves. Think of monks raking sand gardens, where nothing gets done but the heart becomes clear. These are not accidents of idleness, they are outcomes of slow time. Now, let's add a bit of humor here. Imagine a corporate workshop teaching how to daydream better. You get a workbook, a timer, and a mandatory nap session graded for efficiency. Ridiculous, right? And yet, that's exactly what happens when Type A culture tries to colonize Type B gifts. It turns them into tasks. Relax harder, breathe faster, be calm more quickly. Philosophy whispers, you cannot accelerate the eternal. You cannot make a seed sprout by shouting at it. Aristotle once said, nature does nothing in vain, and that includes slowness. Some things require seasons, not shortcuts. Let's touch something deeper now. Mortality. Part of our speed obsession comes from the terror of time running out. If you only have 80 years, shouldn't you sprint? Shouldn't you cram everything in, tick every box, eat every meal, see every continent, love every person? On paper, yes. But in practice, rushing often makes us miss the very thing we're trying to catch. The poet Rilke wrote, being here is so much. Just that, being here, not conquering here, not optimizing here, but tasting here. Type B souls seem to intuit this. They sip. They linger. They allow mortality to sharpen moments instead of erasing them. And psychology agrees in surprising ways. Research on happiness shows that beyond a certain income, more money doesn't make us more satisfied. Beyond a certain speed, more achievement doesn't make us more alive. Instead, what makes the graphs rise is connection, presence, meaning. And meaning often shows up not when we're racing, but when we're still. So here's a picture. A person sitting on a porch at sunset, sipping tea, no phone in hand. Their neighbor speeds by, briefcase in hand, Bluetooth headset buzzing. Both are alive, yes. But which one is in deep time? Which one will remember this evening, 20 years from now? This doesn't mean abandon ambition. It doesn't mean retreat to caves and wait for enlightenment by osmosis. It means recalibrating. Choosing, in Aristotle's words, the golden mean. Doing enough, but not everything. Running sometimes, but not always. Listening to the silence between beats, not just the drum roll. If you are Type A and hearing this, you might feel a twitch of discomfort. maybe even guilt. That's normal. You've been told your entire worth is measured in sprints. To slow down feels like betrayal. But philosophy offers a reframing. Slowing down is not betraying your life, it is befriending it. Because when you slow, you see, you notice the child laughing at a soap bubble, the elderly couple walking hand in hand, the crack in the pavement where a weed insists on growing. You notice that the world isn't only urgent, it's also tender. And here's the ultimate paradox. Those who slow down often end up with richer lives. They may achieve fewer items on a checklist, but they experience more items in the heart. They may collect fewer trophies, but more stories. They may have fewer followers, but deeper friends. Type B dreams remind us that time is not only something we spend, it's something we inhabit. And perhaps the true art is not about squeezing more in, but about expanding the space inside of what's already here. Let's wander into the quiet rooms that speed forgets: love, friendship, creativity, and rest. If the first half of this journey was about stepping off the treadmill, this part is about learning how to live off it, how to speak, to listen, to make, and to mend at a human pace. Start with conversation. In a fast culture, we debate like ping pong: serve, smash, score, next point. But real connection is more like Tai Chi. Weight shifts, breath deepens, pauses carry meaning. Slow people, Type B souls practice what therapists call active, non-anxious presence. You don't rush to fix, you don't scramble to defend, you attend. You let silence do what words cannot. Couples research shows that relationships don't break because partners fail to agree. They break because partners fail to feel heard. Speed solves problems, slowness solves people. Notice how pace and attachment dance. Anxious hearts lean forward, talking faster, filling every pause. Avoidant hearts lean back, speaking in headlines and exits. Secure hearts, the ones we all ache to build, modulate. They add a soft cushion of time around hard moments. A simple rule of slow love: respond one sentence later than you think you must. That single breath can turn a reflex into a choice, a quarrel into a question. Try it. When the next sharp remark lands, sip air, let the body unclench, and answer the person rather than the provocation. Humor helps. Picture a kitchen quarrel rebranded as a special meeting of the Department of Shared Snacks. Agenda Item 1. Why the peanut butter lid is an ongoing philosophical tragedy. Laughter is not avoidance. It's lubrication. Type B humor is gentle. It eases the gears without stripping the bolts. Creativity, too, has a tempo. The muse is allergic to panic. She prefers a messy table and a chair that rocks. Neuroscience gives us the backstage tour. Focused effort lights up one network. Wandering attention lights up another. The default mode, the realm of daydreams and distant connections. Great ideas often shuttle between the two. Push, pause, like the tide. Edison is said to have dozed with a key in his hand. The clink on the floor woke him at the threshold of sleep where insights parade like fireflies. Maybe the legend is embellished. The point is not. Naps are not a bug. They're a feature. Call them strategic surrenders. Try the 20-minute harbor. Set a quiet timer, lie down without devices, let the mind wander with no leash. If sleep comes, good. If it doesn't, also good. The goal isn't on consciousness, it's on tightness. When you rise, you'll often find that a knot you were yanking has simply loosened. We could write a small field manual for slow creativity. 1 unhurried ritual. Tea, bread, sweeping the porch, choose a daily act you refuse to rush. Let it anchor you to the syllables of the day. Single task lane. Multitasking is just fast switching, and the toll booth is your attention. Choose one lane and stay there until the next sign. The Meadow Minute. Before you open a new tab, gaze out a window, count 10 shades of green, name 3 distant sounds. Reset the field. Inbox of the heart. Before you answer anyone, ask, what do I hope this reply will feel like on their side? Work, of course, will protest. Calendars do not surrender without argument. But you can negotiate with time. Batch your errands. Tuck meetings together like spoons. Guard a stretch of day for deep work, and defend it with a simple sentence. I'll be available after 2. Before then, I'm with a deadline. You don't owe an autopsy of your minutes. Boundaries are not brick walls. They're garden fences, permeable, clear, kind. And then there is sleep, the oldest philosopher. If Type A worships dawn alarms and caffeinated heroics, Type B keeps vigil with dusk. Your nervous system learns rhythms by repetition. Craft a soft-spoken evening catechism. Dim the room 1 lamp earlier than usual. Choose one small chore, folding, wiping, done slowly and well, to tell the body that order is returning. Trade the last scroll for a page of paper. 3 lines about gratitude, 1 line about worry, then close the book. Lie down and uncouple the jaw. Let the tongue settle. Let the breath drop into the belly like a pebble into a pond. In for 4, out for 6. Repeat until the edges blur. You are not shutting down. You are deepening in. Sleep is not a break from life. It is the backstage where life is stitched. Philosophy nods along. Aristotle wrote about phronesis, practical wisdom, the art of choosing well amid the fog. That art ripens in slow time. You cannot consult your values at highway speed. The Taoists give another image: water. It moves around rock, not through it, and still the canyon yields its shape to water, not to haste. Slowness is not weakness, it's patient strength. Friendship loves this pace. Aristotle distinguished between friendships of utility, pleasure, and virtue. The last kind, where 2 people will each other's good, requires time without transaction. Walks with no agenda, talks that wander like creeks. A friend who asks, "How are you?" and actually has an hour. If you've never scheduled nothing with someone, try it. Put it on the calendar. Thursday, 7/8. Aimless together. The modern world will laugh. Let it. Then watch how intimacy grows in the soil of unhurriedness. What about ambition? Must slow souls abandon the high shelves of the world? Not at all. The most elegant strategy is often rhythmic ambition. Sprints folded into seasons. Train hard, then coast. Launch, then launder. The violinist does not play fortissimo forever. She shapes a phrase with rests. You can too. A typed note on your desk can help. Intensity is a spice, not a diet. And humor, again, as a survival skill. Invent a few playful household doctrines. The law of the second spoon. If dessert requires a second spoon, you must sit down to eat it. The delayed genius rule. Any idea that arrives in the shower must wait 10 minutes before being emailed to the team. The apology in slow motion. If you're sorry, say it twice, 5 seconds apart. The second one lands where the first couldn't. You will fail at slowness. That is fine. Speed is sticky. It clings like burrs to socks. On those days, practice repair rather than perfection. Apologize to your body for the sprint. A glass of water, a stretch, a walk to the mailbox without your phone. Apologize to your people. I was in a hurry and I made you carry it. Then set the object down together. Underneath all of this is a quiet metaphysics. Being precedes doing. You are not a machine that occasionally sleeps. You are a creature who sometimes acts. The river of worth does not flow from your output to your name. It flows the other way. In the presence of someone who has learned this, you feel it immediately. Your pulse slows. Your breath unclenches. Your shoulders drop without permission. They are not performing calm. They are inhabiting it. Type B dreams are contagious in the best way. So tonight, as the day closes its windows, let's rehearse the smallest act of rebellion. Set your phone face down like a book you'll return to tomorrow. Light travels across the wall. Notice how it fades at the corners. Breathe once for you, once for the ones you love, once for someone you haven't forgiven yet. Let your spine lengthen along the mattress, as if the earth were inviting you to fit the indentation made for your shape alone. If the mind insists on lists, give it one made of weather. A wind that doesn't hurry. A cloud that refuses to be square. A moon that keeps its own calendar. Let the world be uncorrected for a while. Let the lids close like theater curtains. If a thought knocks, you don't have to answer. If a memory tugs, nod and let it pass. Your heart has work it can only do in darkness, sorting, stitching, returning the scattered pieces to their places. Tomorrow there will be tasks again. Tomorrow there may be sprinting. But tonight belongs to the art that speed cannot master. The long exhale, the soft flood of rest, the ancient rhythm that writes us back into ourselves. Slow is not the opposite of success. It is the sound success makes when it finally stops shouting. And in that hush, you can hear your life breathing. You don't need to move to a cabin, toss your phone in a lake, or become a monk by Tuesday. The slow philosophy is less a location and more a posture how you meet the hour that has already arrived. Start with micro choices. When the elevator doors open and everyone lunges, wait a breath. When the kettle sings, pour the water as if time could taste. When a message pings, reply for the human, not the scoreboard. Slowness is not a schedule. It's a way of paying attention. A handful of pocket practices. The one thing ritual. Choose the day's one true task. Do it kindly. Let the rest be bonus. The 20-step walk. After lunch, walk 20 slow steps outdoors. Phone left behind. Shoulders unclenched. The gentle no. Decline one non-essential obligation per week and offer a warm alternative. Boundaries with hospitality. The sunset check-in. Ask someone you love one question that cannot be answered with a fact. Listen until they finish twice. This isn't an anti-ambition manifesto. Sprint when sprinting serves the song. Rest when silence lets the melody return. Aristotle's measure, Laozi's river, strength as harmony, not strain. The point of arriving isn't arrival, it's the aliveness that accompanied you there. Tonight, let your room dim by a single lamp. Let the jaw loosen. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6, until the day's edges soften. Somewhere between those breaths, speed will slip off like a heavy coat, and the person who remains will feel familiar, unhurried, human, home. When sleep comes, let it. When morning comes, meet it slowly. The sky will not mind.